So Antebellum, really the seed of what the film is, or the source material, is a nightmare that I had. And in that nightmare, um, Eden was trying to communicate almost across dimensions, desperate, pleading for help. And I found the nightmare so unsettling that when I awoke from it, I immediately started writing down specifics around what I experienced. And the next day, when I talked to Christopher about all of those details of the nightmare, that's when we decided to put pen to paper and write the short story. And that short story would eventually become the screenplay that we wrote, that is Antebellum.
So we wrote the short story the same day, the day after Gerard had that nightmare, and we were lucky enough that it got in the hands of our first producer, Zeb Foreman, who then came to us and said, "This has to be made into a film. You guys need to write the script." And we had never written a script before. So we said, why can't you just have someone write it and then we can direct it? And he said, that's not how any of this works. You guys really need to write this in order for it to get to the next step. And he said, even if it's terrible, we can try to fix it. We wrote it in a few weeks, and we were lucky that that he said, we don't need anyone to fix this. We can go out.
And apparently there were a lot of studios that agreed about, the urgency of the script. We had a lot of competition. There was a lot of competition to get it, but ultimately we landed at Lionsgate because Lionsgate, with Nathan Kahane at the helm of motion pictures, we felt tremendous confidence that we were going to have the support that we needed as first-time feature filmmakers to get our vision from script to screen. And thank God we made that choice, because we are so proud of the film that we were able to create together. And so, yeah. We came to cast Janelle Monáe in the role of Veronica Eden through a process that is really sort of unconventional. We hadn't thought about Janelle, a big superstar, pop star, in that role, because we didn't want the persona of a star to supersede that of the character in the movie. But the mystery in the way that she navigated her career over the past 12 years, she always reserved and kept something for herself. And when we saw her sitting in, I think it was the audience of the Grammys, and she had this stoic expression on her face that could barely contain the bright furnace that was burning deep inside of her, that was reaching the surface. And in that moment, that's when Christopher and I looked at each other and said, I think we found our Eden Veronica. I would say that the timeliness of the movie, as a result of these delays with a global pandemic, that global pandemic was running on a parallel track of the pandemic of racism that has existed in this country for the past 400 years. And the latter of the two required that we not defer this much needed conversation another day. And although we had designed Antebellum for the theatrical experience, the urgency of getting the movie in front of as many people as possible now in this moment was much more important than waiting until later to get it out into theaters everywhere, perhaps later in 2021. This feels like a divine time for the movie. When we dated it ultimately for September 18th, unbeknownst to us, that it falls on the exact date, the anniversary of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. And that gave us a feeling that this is what we're supposed to do. I think Christopher and I write in a very visual and descriptive way, and I'm very proud of the script that we co-created together. There wasn't any real apprehension from the cast. Once they read it, they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt exactly what we intended to do with the movie. What we needed to do as filmmakers is to provide a safe space for our entire cast so that they could really ground themselves in the performances and know that they were safe, especially given the fact that we were shooting on an actual plantation, which is, you know, academically it felt like it made all the sense in the world. But the reality of that experience is very, very different. And the energy on a plantation, it's hollowed ground, it's palpable, it's uncomfortable. And not to mention the fact that we were in sweltering, 95-degree, 100% humidity, southern Louisiana heat, mosquitoes that were of a militant sort. It was a difficult experience.
But we felt a huge responsibility to the actors who signed on for this script, and they put their trust in us. And so, every day we were battling to make sure that exactly what was on the page is what ended up on screen, so that we could deliver on the promise.
Christopher and I were obsessed with obtaining the lenses from Gone with the Wind. As far as we were concerned, that film from 1939 was and is a horror film. It just needed the time to reveal that. So ultimately, when we thought about what our opening shot was going to look like, we imagined the silhouettes of those sweeping scenes in Gone with the Wind at sunset, the burnt oranges. We wanted to achieve that sense of familiarity from the audience when they were experiencing the film. And it was also of equal importance for us to use those lenses so that we could use the same weaponry that was meant to misinform through propaganda, really effective propaganda, that we were going to use those lenses to then correct the record with Antebellum.
We opened the film with a 5-minute continuous shot that we painstakingly planned with our incredible cinematographer, Pedro Luke. We knew that it was going to be a big undertaking, and it was. Not only is it a half a mile from the front of the house to the back where we conclude the shot, but we wrote the opening of the film to occur at sunset, and the film to conclude at sunrise on a new day, which is great in theory. But when you are trying to get this 5-minute oneer, you really only get 2 shots at it per day. So I think it took maybe I think it was 4 days. On the 4th day, we finally were able to get this shot, which we were all ecstatic about.
We're also really we have to shout out our AD, Gary Marcus, because the shot is intended to feel like an opera in a sense, like symphonic, that we're going from this idyllic beauty in the front of the house, and then we slowly transition to the horror that enables the beauty in the back of the house. And so if one little thing goes wrong, we then have to start all over again. And if not for Gary Marcus, I don't know if we would have been able to achieve the shot, frankly. I was skeptical. So it is a combination of divine intervention, Gary Marcus, Pedro Luke, Christopher, and his dogged determination to stay with the shot from the front of the house to the back of the house. We couldn't even use the audio because he was yelling for people to move so that it would work. So it's a shot that we are so immensely proud of, and it was blood, sweat, and tears to achieve it. Christopher and I have been life partners and creative partners for 12 years. The The name Bush and Renz for us is really Bush Renz, because we're a family and our families are united, and we intend for that name to carry through and mean something eventually for our children. And far after we leave this place, you know, the name Bush Renz will carry on through our art and hopefully through these beautiful children that we don't yet have. But our children for now is the art that we co-create together. And we invest all of our energy and our time, and we're obsessive compulsive in ensuring that the art gets out into the world in the way that it's intended. We have no interest in creating entertainment for entertainment's sake, but we also have no interest in creating preachy art or finger wagging art. We're cinephiles, we're obsessed with movies, and first and foremost, we intend to thrillingly entertain in the movies that we make. And Antebellum, the movie going audience can expect it to be only the first of many disorienting, thrillingly entertaining, epic stories that will stir the imagination and catalyze a much needed and urgent dialogue around a whole host of issues. Within this context, it's race. We'll also deal with the environment and the climate crisis. We'll also deal with the weaponizing of religion. And we look forward to a long and illustrative career as filmmakers.